All right, welcome everyone to the first week of March or second, depending on the way you look at it. To me, this is the first week, so we got week 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, we should have some pretty good movement this week or this month. I'm mainly going to be looking at Bitcoin, of course, uh, gold. We also have Ethereum and a couple of pound pairs. So we'll touch base on those during this session. We're going to start with Bitcoin because that is ongoing and active. We still have active positions. Uh, and yeah, let's just get right into it. So basically what I'm looking for is if we take a look at this daily structure here, how we had to push down and the momentum is so strong, it just pulled back very slightly and then it continued down again. This is essentially what I'm going to be looking for here. So in my opinion, we might see something very similar to, actually, let me go like this. So I have the highs here of this consolidation marked, and I'm going to just drag this over. And that's basically that's what I'm looking to see here, but even further downside movement to 29,000. Zooming in, last week we had a huge push up here and we wicked right above these highs right here into this area. It sold pretty much, just tipped right over, no pullbacks. You can see pretty much no wicks on these candles. And now we're down into the high 30s and we are currently stalling and accumulating for what I believe is going to be a short-term buy up into the low 40s again, so around 40 to 42,000, which you'll see why these levels are there in the smaller time frame. But I would like to point out that this level also lines up with the imbalance of this wick right here, as well as the mid VWAP. So taking a look, we're going to dive into 4-hour. So you know what? We're going straight to the 1-hour. The levels that I have highlighted here that I'm interested in price wicking down into and then starting that pullback is this low right here. Obviously, there's no wick here that's good in balance, and that's right where price exploded. And then this wick right here, because that's the low, right? The ultimate low that's right at 37,000. So what I believe is we will see one more daily spike down, and I believe that will be lower than this one, kind of like over here how we got these two spikes, and then before it actually started to pull back, we got one more huge push down and then it continued up. So that's kind of what I'm expecting here. But I am aware of the fact that comparing this wick to these two, this is a huge spike. So I'm gonna be careful with that. And if we don't get this buy opportunity up here, then I'm just gonna be waiting patiently for the sell opportunity. So back to the 1-hour. We had a scalp, a short time frame entry right here. I'll show you the 10-minute. So what happened was price dumped down here and it pulled back into these highs and it started rejecting. And to me, that's just pulling back in there to grab a couple more orders before it makes its push down. And that's what happened. This was around midnight. We took a sell entry here and price just dumped, I think, at like 150 pips. And I am currently waiting to see what happens in this area after the new daily candle starts. So in the meantime, I'm expecting price to range and kind of chop around and do whatever, which it has been for quite some time, pretty much since this morning. You can see we pushed up, pulled back, pushed up, dropped down there, pulled up again, right? So we're pretty sideways, and that's expected because it's getting to be the end of the daily candle and we already made that move. And what I'd like to see is the daily close around this level. I actually I'm still in this short position from right here, and I actually have a short at 40,600. As soon as it started dumping from here, that's when I took an entry. I'm holding both of those because with stop loss just above this high, I think 39.9 is my stop loss. Um, but I would like to see price close up around here because that is going to make the daily close with a big wick, right? If it closed down here, then the daily would not be closing with a big wick, and the wick is what I want to see. So over the next 2 hours, hopefully we stay around this level, which pretty sure that's going to happen. Actually, we go 30-minute time frame. Um, After the new daily starts, what I'm expecting is a push up into this area is very possible. And I have this high marked here very clearly. I'm open to the idea of a slight spike above here before it pushes down, which is why my stop loss is just a little bit above where I think it'd spike. So if it does push up here, I don't think it'll like blow past it and like come all the way up here and then come down, right? I think if we're gonna make this wick down into between these two levels, then I don't think we're gonna start coming all the way up here because this is the region where we're looking to enter the sell from. And I think if it's going to accumulate buys to go up there, it's not going to go all the way up there, which is why my stop loss is relatively low. So what I'll be looking for after swap, so essentially tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, but probably tonight, I would like to see it happen kind of shortly after the open of the candle, similar to this. So the open was right here. Okay, this was the opening hour, the first 30 minutes of the daily. And you can see only a few hours into the day is when it started dumping, and the rest of the day it pushed back up. So it closed with a wick and consolidated. I would like to see something very similar happen with this new daily. And if we can actually get up into this area right here of high 39,000s and start rejecting as we did last night, then I might enter a third position on the sell. And the target, my take profit is just under this first zone because once it gets down there, I just want to get out of the sells and then focus completely on the buys. And one more thing to point out is Bitcoin typically it likes tapping areas in three when it's accumulating. So a perfect example is 1, 2, 3 accumulation, and it pushed right 1, 2, 3. Obviously, it chopped around a little bit, it snapped back up, then it dropped right here, which we actually had to sell from this area. You could see 1, 2, 3 push up right here. It's not perfect, but 1, 2, 3. You get the idea of what I'm trying to show you. You can see 1, 2, 3, push up, and it goes on and on and on. This has a little bit more than three, right? But the main three that I'd be looking at is this 1, 2, 3, and push up, which this is pretty similar to what I'm expecting to happen. This is that area on the daily that I highlighted that I showed that I want something like this. What I'd like to show you is you can see how price dumped into the area and then it made this high right here. And what happened is we made the wicks on the daily, it sold, and then it tested the high and it just tanked one more time below all the lows really quickly. As you can see, this is 30-minute time frame. From here to here is 18 hours. So from there to there is 9 hours. And then it immediately came back up. I mean, you can see just immediately pushed. So this entry right here, that would have to be pretty intuitive. And, looking left, price hasn't really been down there. So, that would probably be a hard buy to get into. But this one is going to be a little bit more calculated because we actually have previous areas of orders in the market that clearly has lots of liquidity. So that's why I have this range marked up. So what I'm expecting is a very quick, very fast spike down into these areas, maybe even slightly below this, but and then an immediate snap back up, because what I'm expecting is when that push down happens is for it to come right back up, so it creates that daily wick and possibly even a bullish candle with a huge wick. So that's, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's not super complicated or in depth or anything like that. I just want to point out here, we see just for this sell, this is also what I was looking at. I just didn't have it marked, is these highs right here. And then it snapped above it right here. And I want you to take a look left of my crosshair, and you can see the wick that it lines up with perfectly, how it stopped that wick out. And then it dropped, and then the market said, hold on, wait, we're not ready to drop yet. Let's pull back up and get more orders. Came back up into this area right here, and that's when it dumped. So that's kind of how that trade broke down. And yeah, that's what I'm expecting to happen here. So let's see if after the new daily candle opens, if we can get a possible second entry or a third entry on the sell. And that would create that beautiful third wick. So 1, 2, 3, and explode up into these levels right here. So I'm going to change it to the 30-minute. As you can see, we have level 1, which is essentially 41,000. That is the top. And the reason I have these levels marked is because that's where the price dumped from. You can see price pushed down here. It pulled back up very slightly, and then the market completely drained, which is actually where my first entry was. What that proves is there is a lot of selling going on in this area. So that is the first area that I will be looking for the sells. Second area is going to be right here, which same concept. Pushed down, came up here. You can even see the 1, 2, 3 drop, and then the quick pullback before it drained down to the next level right here, the bottom of the VWAP. So that's why this level right here is marked, because that is the other area where there's lots of liquidity in the market. And there's obviously the third level right all the way up here. I think it's possible that it comes all the way up to almost 43,000. I'm not ruling that out. However, based off of, we'll go to the weekly time frame now, and I'm going to clear all that. This is a massive wick. I mean, that is huge. Just visually looking at that wick, that is ginormous. And that is a lot of sell pressure. And I don't think the next weekly candle is going to need that big of a wick in order to push down. So that's why I'm not really betting on price coming, because that level was like right here. And that would be a huge wick on this candle, which I'd be open to that. I am open to that. That would be lovely, because then the sell just has more pips on it. So that would be great. I mean, if we hit 43,000 and we sell to 29,000, that's 1,400 pips, and that would be brilliant. But there's a chance that might not happen, but it could be. Looking at what happened here, obviously this wick isn't as big, but as you can see, the following candle, it came pretty close to the top. So if I draw a Fibonacci on that and pull it right here, we can see that actually lines up a little bit higher. I'm selling myself on waiting for it to be higher. I'm deleting that line. Right now we got a whole bunch of stuff on the chart, a whole bunch of confluences. Delete that arrow. I'm actually going to delete this for the time being. And this, let's clean it up a little bit. So I pull this back into here. All right, there we go. That's a little bit more clean. I'll delete the VWAP for a minute. There's a nice, crisp, clean image. So 1, 2, hopefully we get number 3, buy into here. honestly, the more I look at this, this is very possible. There's, in my opinion, I don't think there's any way we're going to hit 43.6, but there is very, very, very good chance that we're going to hit 42,000 and pull up in here and then maybe spike into right here. So there's a possibility we're going to have an entry at 42.7 or higher, or like just above it, 42.8. So that's my outlook on Bitcoin. We have a current sell position ongoing, looking to hold that to 37.8 thousand, which is going to be essentially from this entry is 170 pips, and from the first entry is 280 pips. Decent trade right there. And then the buy is going to be also another really good trade, almost 500 pips, as long as we can get, the really good entry around the mid or lower 37,000s. And then, of course, the 1,400 pips all the way back down to 29,000. So we'll see what happens here. I really, really do believe we're going to get that third tap. If I go like this, it just makes sense, right? Like this right here. See this flow? See, I have the high, then it pushed down, and it came back up into that high area, and then it just tanked, and then it exploded. I'm expecting something like this, but on a smaller scale, right? Not as big, not as large, not as long, but the overall flow of what is going on within the market right here is what I'm expecting to happen right here. Going forward, gold, we're going to start with the weekly. Weekly is very important. This past weekly was a straight brick up, blue brick, just exploded. It opened and exploded and closed at the peak. So that sort of buy pressure, I am assuming it's going to sustain into the next week. Mix that with the war and everything going on, add the war and the technicals. It's just screaming another bullish week. My target is going to be $2,000 per ounce. Diving in a little bit, we'll go to the 1 hour just to get right into it. We got the VWAP. This is anchored to the open of last week. So it's technically a weekly VWAP. What I'm looking for is a very similar pattern to what happened here. So a huge push up. We pulled back into this mid VWAP area, and then we exploded into these new highs. I'm expecting that to happen here. So obviously this mid VWAP will be pulled up as price stays up here after the market opens, right? This will slowly move up and up and up. But I also have this area right here, because what this shows me, if we dive into the 30-minute, this is a lot of liquidity. So this area right here, in my opinion, if the weekly candle is going to come down and make that sort of wick, it's going to come down to the previous area where there's a lot of liquidity, which is 1940 or 1930 right here, this wick right here, this just general area. So I'm betting on 1940. I don't think that I'm actually going to pull this to that low right there, right? 1940 exactly. I don't think we're going to need that big of a wick on the weekly, and 1940 would not create that big of a wick. If you look at this, I mean, that's not even, let's see, this is 850 pips. So it's not even halfway down the candle, which I'm expecting something like this. If we look over here, you can see this huge bullish push, and then we had a slight wick down, and then it exploded from there. And I'm going to measure the peak of this weekly candle to that low of the wick is 350 pips essentially. And obviously the week closed at the high, and I'm expecting price to at least come up here. We'll get into that in just a minute. But if we pull that down, that's around the same style, right? So I don't think it's gonna just go like that and close right here. I think this week is gonna come down, make a wick, and then it's gonna explode to 2000. So let's get into the opportunities that the movement that we are predicting creates. You can see I have this zone above this high because I believe there is a lot of stop losses and liquidity right there at the mid 1970s. So very shortly after the market opens, I'm expecting price to push up in here and then start selling pretty quickly. I don't think it's going to spend a lot of time pulling back and setting up. I think it's going to be a pretty sharp push down here and then explode. Now it depends if the market opens with a massive gap. As you can see, this huge candle right here, this is the market open last week, and it just completely exploded 300 pips, right? 300 pip. This is the 10-minute time frame, guys. 370 pips in the first 10 minutes. It slowly pulled back. It didn't even pull back to the open, right? There's no wick right here. There's no wick on that weekly, which is very surprising. And I was actually looking to enter if it did. I just wanted to see it hit that wick. I just wanted to see it make that, that line right there. But I guess it did not want to do that. So if this explodes like 300 pips, then price is at 2000. I mean, it's 300 pips away from 2000, which is pretty crazy actually. I didn't even realize that. So this sell right here, I will be very patient and it's not necessary. The main component I'm looking for is the buy around this area. It doesn't even have to hit 1940. As you can see, this huge wick down here on the 10-minute. I believe this might have been NFP. Was that NFP? Yeah. Right there was NFP right here. It pulled all the way back down there, then exploded. So yeah, this is what I'm looking for with gold, is a possible sell from the mid or upper 1900s into 1940, which would be a solid 360 pips, and then an immediate reversal buy up to 2000, which would be 600 pips. And that is solely based on the fact that if it depends how the market opens. If the market explodes when it opens, then I'm not touching gold. But if it doesn't explode like anything, crazy, and it starts rejecting here and throwing wicks, I'm definitely going to be looking to sell, because in my opinion, if I'm a bank and I'm about to explode this price, based off what happened last week, how it did that, I feel like they won't necessarily do that 2 times in a row. They might trick some people, because right here, lots of people are going to be looking to sell. So they might actually sell it. And then they might have it set up to look like it's going to continue down. And at that point, we're going to look to buy. But yeah, that's it for gold. Pretty straightforward. Just waiting to see a little pullback. I mean, you can see this huge push here. Just something like this, just a little pullback. And actually, I want to show you real quick before I go to the pound pairs. The example I was giving you on the weekly time frame earlier, how it pulled back 300 some pips. This is that. So I'm going to delete that. Let's look. Okay, 7. I'm lining up where the weekly started right there. Okay, so look what happened. This is the high of the week. The market opened. It pulled up to this high, spiked above it. As you can see, it tanked right here, pulled back. It actually pulled back all the way back up here. Then it dropped, and then it immediately turned right back around and exploded and continued to explode. So that's what I'm going to keep my eye out for this week, is just a sell opportunity above this high, a quick pullback, followed by a continuation to 2000. And that is it for gold. What's up, Goldfish? Going into a couple more pairs here, I'll touch base on pound yen and Ethereum. Ethereum is very, very similar to the Bitcoin analysis. So we'll go over GJ. I'll touch base with Ethereum, and I don't know when you joined, but I will show you Bitcoin very briefly, which is going to be very similar to the Ethereum that you're about to see. GJ has dumped, and we have been looking for shorts since up in this area, and it's been dumping. What I'm expecting is a further continuation all the way down here to the 148.5 area. That is based off the yen being a safe haven currency, just very, very similar to gold. So as yen increases in strength, it'll bring down all these pairs. And just to look at the yen basket, you can see huge wick down, stalled, huge wick up, push back down again, and now we have a huge push. So what I'm expecting is these levels, these highs to be hit as this war continues, which would allow us for these lows to be hit on the pound yen. So in my opinion, there's gonna be two scenarios that happen, or three really. First scenario is we just make a minuscule wick like this and dump, pretty much like last week. But since that already happened last week, I don't think that scenario is likely to happen. Scenario two is we stall for a week and then we pull back into this level and dump. That is what I think is most likely, but we'll see what happens. Very, very, very similar to this. See how price pushed down, stalled for a week, and then it pulled back about halfway, and then it dumped the next 1, 2, and 3 weeks. That is what I'm betting on. And let's zoom in these levels. Well, the levels I have marked that I'm looking to sell from are obviously the high right here, but also the bottom of that right here in case it doesn't need to or doesn't want to pull back all the way. With that sell in mind, very similar to the Bitcoin swing sell, we might get a buy opportunity up there because what I'm looking at is we have a 1, 2, 3. And if we look right here, you can see price pushed down, see how, or sorry, it pushed up. See how it just barely moved down and then exploded? That means there is a ton of orders right here. And what I'm going to expect is some sort of reaction from that. And I have the zone below that just because we know how manipulative the market is. So I'm going to be paying attention when price gets down here. I'm going to set an alert. If price pulls down here and starts rejecting, I think we might get a short-term buy into these levels, which is going to be a solid 300 pips ish. And then from there, definitely looking for the sells. I would rather see this high hit. I'm more keen on that, but this is why I had that level marked right here. Is this the high of this right there? But it looks cleaner, and there's a higher chance that if it's going to come up here, then it's at least just going to spike up into this area. So this is the area that I'm looking to sell the pound yen from. And as you can see, there is imbalance here right before it dumped. So I am pretty certain that price is going to pull up into this area. So yeah, definitely going to be watching this next daily, because what would happen is this is a daily low right here. So if this day can push down, it would make a nice wick a little bit lower than that daily. And if it closes up here, that would be brilliant. And then the following day or two could give us a nice push into 154. And then we can look to sell and continue that down into the weekly lows of 148 or lower. Okay, it could just completely drain. So if we get the entry up here, if hopefully the opportunity in the market presents itself and allows us to enter at 154, honestly, I'm probably going to have an open take profit and just trail it, because if the yen continues to explode, I mean, just look at the times price has dumped, right? It does not mess around. When it dumps, it completely drains. So it'd be brilliant to see something like that happen here. I mean, if we can dump into these lows right here, or these lows really, see this imbalance right here, there's no wick right there. So 145, oops, 145. Okay, so if we can sell right here in this area, target 1,148, target 2,145, which would be 1,000 pips. And real quick with Ethereum, I'm not going to dive super deep into it. But it's very similar pattern to Bitcoin, how Bitcoin last week, it exploded, then it started tipping over, and then it dumped. And as you can see here, it's actually respecting these levels quite well. So in the same sense of Bitcoin snapping down one more time before it pulls back, I think Ethereum has that opportunity as well. And this low right here is going to be where I would look for that reversal to happen. So if we can spike pretty much, well, I'm not going to say 2,500 because that's way down here. 25.45. All right. If we can hit 25.45, I'm fairly certain that we're going to get a buy opportunity into these levels right here. And oh, that didn't copy. Oh, there we go. I had to paste it. So one of these two levels, likely the higher one. So I'm gonna delete the lower one, which lines up with a mid VWAP. So it's possible we see Ethereum push to 2.8 thousand before we see it continue down. And when I say continue down, I'm talking about either 2,100 or 1,700. Okay. Now, if we're comparing the chart in the lows to Bitcoin, take a look at this. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Bitcoin, same thing. 1, 2, 3. So if Bitcoin's going to hit 29,000, then Ethereum's going to hit 1,700. And that's as simple as that. There's nothing else to it. So we'll see what happens with that. That's actually it. I'm not looking at any other pairs. My main focus is going to be watching Bitcoin and gold, especially gold. I'm really expecting. We'll see how the market opens, but if it doesn't open crazy, then I'm expecting a fairly quick sell entry. Based on the volatility, I feel like the market will want to very quickly come down to grab the liquidity down here and explode. So it's not going to waste a lot of time up here setting up for a sell. It's just going to tap it and go down. And then down here, it might set up a little bit just to chop some people out and chop them around and hit their stop losses before it explodes. That's a possibility. But kind of like this right here, I'm going to delete this. Kind of like this right here. You see how price exploded, right? It came back down and exploded again. And before it made its final and huge push up, it snapped all the way back down to where the liquidity is, which is these areas, and actually snapped just below it. And then it made its push up. So it just makes sense to me to see that same sort of style happen right here. And yeah, that's it. Didn't really have a lot of people join this time. Thank you for joining, Mr. Goldfish. Appreciate you coming in here. Normally we have a lot more, but I guess everyone was busy this week. And if you guys weren't aware, actually, or I guess if you weren't aware, all these sessions are recorded, including this one, and they're posted on YouTube. So yeah, if you missed it or the coming weeks. So these Zooms happen every Sunday for the people in the VIP chats. And sometimes we give them out to the free chats, which is how you're in here today. But whether you're in the free or not, they are posted on YouTube. So it's obviously not live then on YouTube, and you're getting the information late, and the market might have already moved. But if you just wanted to kind of see the analysis, take notes on the analysis, then you can look at that YouTube video. But that is all I got. I'm going to stop the screen share and get it posted. Thank you for joining, and let's have a good week. Tyler, out.
Yo, Tyler,
Yo.
right before you leave, could you show me the chart for oil
Ah, yes. Oil.
real quick?
Crude oil.
Yeah.
So it's interesting here is that, oh, I'm not screen sharing, am I?
No.
All right, you can stay on here, Goldfish, if you want.
Yeah, like I see that gap there.
Sean Lee is calling a short here, I think.
Yeah. I think price is going to move down to fill that gap that it left. It hasn't filled it as yet.
Down here?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that because gas prices are almost $5 a gallon where I'm at.
Yeah. And I saw something about, I think Sean sent it in the group a while ago about Biden. Let me see if I can find the message. I think it did send it from forex.com. See if we can find it. So yeah, Joe Biden is going to Saudi Arabia himself and demand more oil injection. So if they inject more oil, that means there's going to be an increase in the supply of oil. And usually when you have an increase in supply, that usually drives our prices down. So maybe that would be that move down there.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I'm going to add that to my MetaTrader right now. That's what I'm doing right now because you're now the second person that has said short oil, basically. So I'm gonna add that to my secondary watch list.
Yeah, it looks pretty good for some nice sells back down to fill that gap.
I just don't know how the market flows. So it's like, where do you enter at?
Like
Like, do we
if
enter?
you should go back like to the left, you will see that I think it was some years ago because oil doesn't gap that much, but the last time oil did gap, like for example on the forward chart, it did went back to fill it. It always fills those gaps. At least that's what I learned. Like anytime a currency pair or a commodity or a future, anytime you see those things gap, at some point price has to come back to fill that gap before moving in either direction.
Yeah, I mean, even look at this small gap here. It pulled
Yeah,
back just
and
to
fill it.
fill it, and then it dumped. And even this move, this is a 4 hour. I don't know what like 450 is on that, but
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge gap right there. Holy moly.
Yeah, and it slowly went back up to fill it for continuing higher.
Yeah, I would love to see this filled. I mean, it would make sense because the news and everything had an immediate reaction in the market. And now it's possible that it technically comes down and fills that area and then continues up probably. Because that is a very, very sharp move up. Like, like this is all steady, but that's like straight up.
Yeah,
And this is obviously a way smaller scale, but it straight up, it has to come back down and then it pulls back up again. Even here, okay, here's an example. Here's a huge gap up and then it comes back down. Same here. Let's see, looking at this, so it doesn't have to necessarily spike that out. I feel like, so I mean, I haven't traded oil ever, but I feel like it's not the same style market as like gold or Bitcoin, where it like there's stop losses everywhere and they're grabbing liquidity. I feel like oil is more like I don't even know how to put it, but I'd be very interested to look into shorting here, like honestly right around here, like right in this area right here. But I don't know. I don't even know how to calculate position size for that. I have no idea. What is my contract size on oil? 1,000. What does that mean?
You could check it out. Yeah, I haven't traded gold. I mean oil as yet. It's just somebody just asked me, what I think about oil prices, and I just opened up the chart a while ago and I saw the big gap, and I'm like, how I always thought to analyze charts is that you see a gap, at some point price has to come back and fill it. So
Oh my God. So it's like US 30
oh
Osprey
shit.
because my contract size is 1,000 and that's a point. Oh, wait, hold on. Is this my lot or is this my lot? Pip size, trade size. Okay, so that's a lot, right? This is the lot. No, 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 no. No, that's the contract size. This is the lot.
Yeah, pips, yeah.
Wow. Because that I was calculating a stop loss like 100 of them. Look at that. That's really tight. Wow. I don't know. I mean, that's like the smallest risk you could do is like hundreds of dollars.
That's crazy.
Like just 50. Let me go to this 10-minute. Just that. Pretty much one candle. Why is it 1,000, dude? Why can't it be like 10,000? That would make me feel better. I don't know if I'm gonna trade that. That's crazy. I mean, that is like the stop loss would have to be over 100 for it to be like have room. That's nuts. But it looks like it wants to just tank.
Yeah.
Because if you look right here, I know we just talked about not stopping out, but like it just took this high out and then it stalled and then it had a drop. That is very, very interesting. I don't know. I'm gonna keep that marked up just to watch it, but I don't know if I'm gonna partake in that.
Yeah, but if it drops, that would be good for all of us,
That would be.
Yeah. Because these gas prices lately, been crazy.
Yeah, they're pretty gnarly. But there is a good chance it'll drop. All right. That's probably it then.
Yeah, all right, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Let's have a good week.
Yeah. Let's kill it.